Net commercials on the other side, that's why we say we have a complicated situation. The net commercials are quite light. So then producers didn't sell enough, the others didn't hedge enough. So we have this, for example, okay, the latest data we have is from 23rd of September due to government shutdown in America. They were positive. That's abnormal, very abnormal. They usually had an average a position of 269K lots short, and they were long here. So this shows you the pressure that they have also to sell or to hedge. And here we have an interesting chart, the commercial short position, that really shows us how much producers hedged. And we see these two lines. This is the line from last year, the blue one, and the black line is this year. So let's say starting from this March, April here, the blue line reflects the next year, right? Hedging, generally for Brazil. Of course, we have some selling from Thai mills and others, but they are not so important as Brazilian selling here. I think in these numbers, maybe Brazil is more than 70%, right? Or so the hedging here. So we see that the Brazilian mills hesitated to hedge starting with, let's say, March, April last year for this year. They didn't like the prices. Then, of course, they had to pick up in hedging, and they finished the year here much below the other years. Now, this year, hedging, and then this was also, how can I say, amplified by Thai selling, that they didn't like the price also. Thais was selling more like spot, like, okay, next month, or, and see, it's also low. Now, of course, we won't see a spike from here to here, right? But maybe something like following the previous year pattern. What does this tell us? The producers are hesitating to price, right? But the question is, can they go forward with that or not? Something they will have to price, because if you leave the flexibility 100%, then you risk that everybody will do ethanol, and then ethanol prices will collapse, and then you are finished, right? So you have to hedge something. Unfortunately, is at lower levels, right? But the pain was taken by Europeans too, right? So they sell below cost. So there is a bit of pain, but maybe it's not necessary to a certain level, right? So maybe you hedge a bit less. Now, the good news now is the ethanol floor. At least we talk about an ethanol floor now. That's this year. Ethanol pay better than sugar in for everybody in September, okay? So from the 8th of September to somewhere 22, 23, and then, okay, now it's there, the hydrous ethanol. It's a bit below sugar prices, not today, because if we will go down to 14, then, but the problem is, again, here in Brazil, like, nobody helped producers with nothing. Just like, okay, cut again gasoline prices at the pump. Ethanol started to pick up better, have a higher floor, and now again comes this decision, and then unfortunately we have to go a bit lower with the floor. But last year, at the same time, we had sugar paying better, let's say 800 points, 700 points, right? So there is a very big, huge difference between this year and last year. So we don't have to think like last year, right? We have the ethanol floor higher. We talk about an ethanol floor. We don't know what will happen. Don't cry about demand. Who knows? Maybe the auto cycle will grow by 5%, we don't know, right? So that's one good thing. Another thing is that anhydrous, and we have now in Brazil 30% at the pump, anhydrous. Anhydrous was more profitable than sugar by, let's say, 1 cent to 2.5 cents in this period. So then anhydrous here, we have it with a pink line, and then hydrous is in blue line, right? So at least that part of the industry was good. Now, The big problem with ethanol, as I said, is that if it goes above 70% with gasoline, okay, there is a tendency that's okay. You see ethanol prices at the pump now 4 reais, and then gasoline is 6.2. Doesn't matter. Now, okay, if from 4 reais it goes to 4.5 reais, I have as a human being the tendency still to put ethanol, right? I don't do always the calculation, is it 70% of gasoline prices or not? Okay, so, but if we go, let's say, above 70 to 74%, 75% of gasoline prices, then we'll have more consumption on gasoline and implicitly on anhydrous ethanol. So that's why for ethanol also, it's kind of a limited, let's say it's a capped spike. It can spike now in the winter season, but then you go massively with corn ethanol. I've heard that corn ethanol production costs are somewhere at 10 cents per pound, 11 cents per pound, so it's much lower than hydrous. So that is the problem. We cannot go too high with hydrous unless something changes. I don't know, tariffs to the US, instead of 50% to go back to lower levels, or identifying some other markets. You know, maybe India will not import so much oil from Russia, and then take some other things from the world markets. But yeah, that's the problem with the ethanol. Now, that's our assessment for the next season. We are working with lower sugar mix. We are, I think, among the lowest in the market, and we have to give this signal because, okay, what we've seen up until now indicates this, right? It's like unhedged, big unhedged. So people will start thinking, okay, I will need more flexibility. Okay, that's not a low sugar mix. 48.7% is not a low sugar mix. It's still a high sugar mix. If we look on what was realized previously, okay, 24-25, we had 48.1. We know why cane had these parameters that suffered. Then in 23-24, when we had that big crop, 48.9%. So we are in line with that. And this will give us about 40 million tons of sugar. Okay, now people are working here with 50%, 51%, some people go ballistic, 52%. Okay, do you really want to destroy yourself and the world market? Do 60% sugar and then sell it at 5 cents. So this has to happen, right? Then historically we have this ethanol and sugar mix. We remember that 1% of sugar mix adds or removes about 150,000 tons of sugar from the market. So probably lower mix here. Now let's go to India very quickly. Where are the prices, right? Because people say, India exports, India exports. Okay, I agree, India exports. Give them 3 million tons, but can they export at these prices? Maharashtra prices now are equivalent to about $435, $438 per ton. This means 38,000 to 38,700 rupees. Same in Karnataka. This, if you do the calculation, you add transportation, insurance, everything, and bring it to the port, FOB, for Maharashtra means not UP, which is much more expensive, you reach about $460, $465 per ton. Okay, that's what India could sell now at current domestic prices. This would mean in rows, they don't do rows, but we need a bit theoretical rows to calculate. You go to a mill and say, guys, can you interrupt the process and do some rows for me? Yes. How much you discount? 1,000 rupees. Can you give me 1,200? Okay, bid for it, but not more than this. Right? So this means that the raw sugar equivalent to domestic market now is about 20.5. Now something has to happen. And then it happened. December 17, 2024. We are in October now. Now, okay, maybe it will not happen in December 17 because the crop is delayed. There is a lot of lodging, cane is suffering, a lot of water. Maybe they will start crushing only in the middle of November, right? We don't know when. But the government will not take any decision of exports before having a very good view on the crop. and this could be earliest middle of January. Now, they will take a decision in two conditions. One, domestic market will collapse because they are only interested in domestic market, not in exports, not nothing. There are no elections in India this year, okay? Nothing. So why would they do something? They would do only if domestic market collapse. And then what we had in the previous year, we had Maharashtra trading at 33,000 rupees, 32 to 33,800. Okay, that time was an average of $395. That's what they traded last time. Will we correct? Will we see a correction to 33,000 rupees? I don't say it's impossible, but still, if you see this correction, then still they would need at least 17.5 cents on fall.